Good morning. I'm Linda with Pinky Mouse Sisters in the Kitchen. Mary is home today. I'm going to be making Scandinavian almond bar cookies. This is a cookie that I have made probably for the last 40 years. It's one of our family's favorites at Christmas time. They're really not hard to make. And this recipe is in our cookbook. The one that's going to be on our members page will be posted later today. Hopefully it will be. And it is a little bit more detailed than the one in our cookbook. So when we go back and we're doing these recipes, we try to make it as detailed as possible. And I want to welcome everyone watching here. I hope that y'all will like and share our page. I put the mixer over here so I wouldn't have to keep running back and forth. I have got my dry ingredients in a bowl, and I just kind of mix them together to make sure that my baking powder and my salt was mixed in good with the flour. So I'm going to start beating my butter, creaming my butter, and it is going to be a little bit noisy, so y'all bear with me. I'm going to cream this, and this mixes up really fast, and then we'll get some of this out of the way, and I'll show you the fun part. So in my dry ingredients, I got 3.5 cups of flour. I've got 4 teaspoons of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of salt. I did not put salt in the recipe, so for those of you who see the recipe on our members page, make sure you put a teaspoon of salt in there. The butter needs to be soft, and I do use salted butter. And as soon as I get this creamed, I'm going to add in the sugar. Y'all know we are sponsored by Imperial Sugar, and I'm using the granulated sugar today, and I'm also using some powdered sugar for the glaze. So I'm going to dip powdered sugar with this earlier, so I'm just going to wipe that out. And my canister was almost empty, so I just put another bag of Imperial Sugar in here. I'm just going to kind of slowly pour this in there. I don't know if I'm going to pull this down a little bit. Maybe that's better. Now this sugar is very fine, so you're probably going to see a little mist come up from it. Kind of pouring it in slowly. I've got my oven preheated to 325. I got my oven racks to where it's on the second and the fourth rack. Oh Mike, I hope I don't knock any milk or eggs or anything over this morning like I did the other day. Okay, this is my second cup of sugar. Little dust coming up there. I'll try to move this around as I go so I have a little bit more room to work with here. I get a spatula out. Oh, I got a bowl scraper. Okay, I'm going to, whoops, this is my other mixer. I can't do that. I'm going to just scrape the sides of it down to make sure all that butter gets incorporated good. And y'all have heard me say this before, but butter is one thing that I use, well, one of several things that I use that is a generic brand. I like Walmart butter and I like Kroger butter. This happens to be Kroger here. So I'm just going to use the same cup here to break my eggs in. I got 2 large eggs. Extract for this recipe. So almond is something that's pretty easy to find in the store. I ordered this from Amazon. The brand is Rodale, but Watkins has a good almond extract. And most stores carry almond extract, and it smells so good. So I'm going to put 1 teaspoon of almond extract. I'm going to go ahead and add that. I put just a tad more than 1 teaspoon. Mix that up real good. My ingredients off here. Okay, got my sugar, butter, and my eggs, and my almond extract. And then I'm just going to start with small amounts, adding the flour. And I think I'm going to put my flour guard on, just so it doesn't fly everywhere. Now this recipe that I have right here is actually a double recipe. This is and you want to make at least this much. You don't want to half this because it just makes a small amount. If you make this double recipe, you'll get several cookies out of this. Cookie dough because it's going to separate completely from the bowl, and once I get this done I'll show you how it looks. I know you can't see real good the way I've got this situated, but I'll show it to you before I take it out of the mixer bowl. Now this is 3.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 4 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of salt. Okay, I knew that wouldn't take long, so let me just make sure I got my flour, sugar, butter, eggs, milk. The milk and the almonds go on top. Baking powder, extract. Okay, we got everything in here. Let me just move this out of the way real quick. And I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to do this without too much disruption. I need room to work. This mixer is heavy. I have to lift it with both hands. Okay. I'm going to dump it off on my pastry mat. And I told y'all I would show y'all this. see, it's all separated from the bowl. And Mary is fine. Mary had a very, very long week. Lots of work that she did last week, and she'll be telling you all about that. But we cannot cook together 4 times a week. It's just too much on both of us. So most of y'all know that are watching us that we told y'all several weeks ago that we were going to be doing this, but I know everybody probably didn't hear. So we're trying to make as many recipes as we can for y'all before the holidays. So that was our plan back in the early fall, and we've tried to do it. And there's been some days that we had planned to cook together that we couldn't for one reason or other. Either the weather, because we live 55 miles apart. I'm north of I-20, Mary's south of I-20. And when these fronts come in, and we're supposed to have one come in tomorrow, we don't know where it's going to hit. We don't know if it's going to hit north or south, or if it's going to go in a diagonal and hit a little bit of both. But I don't like to be on the road when the weather's bad, and Mary, I don't like for her to be on the road when the weather's bad. So we try to, watch that. Between me and Chuck, I think we pretty much do watch the weather real good. I'm just scraping out my bowl real good to make sure I've got all of this. I'm just going to kind of form a log here. This is a very, very good cookie dough. Let's see if I can bring this over just a little bit. Maybe move this out of the way, because I'm going to divide this into 4 pieces, and I want it to kind of be even. You don't have to have the same amount of cookies on each sheet, but I want it to be pretty much even. So let's see here. I get measurement on this mat, so I'm kind of going by this to cut it in half. This is about 12 inches, so I'm going to cut it at 6, and then I'm going to cut it at 3 there. So that might not be exactly even, but it's pretty close. Now, let me move this out of the way. And I've got my cookie sheets here. I'm going to need 4 cookie sheets. You don't have to grease your cookie sheets. And if you want to use the seal patch, you can. I don't think I'm going to use them. I think I'm going to pull them off because I want them to cook on the bottom of the pan. Just move this over here. Okay, so I have done this to where you can put 2 logs on a cookie sheet, but they kind of tend to run together. So today I'm going to do this to where it's only 1 log on a cookie sheet, because I want to be able to, you cut these cookies at a diagonal, so I don't want them to run into each other when they're baking, and then you kind of have to separate them with your knife. So just roll it on your cookie sheet like this until you get it about, I don't know, maybe 1 inch from each end, and then you just start pressing. And you want to get it to be about 3 or 4 inches across, somewhere. I think I put on in the instructions, I think I put 4 inches, but if it's 3 inches, 3 to 4 inches will be good. Now this is going to puff up, and it's going to spread, and it's going to rise because it's got all that baking powder in it. So it's going to be bigger than this right here. So keep that in mind. And you know, if you want to put 2 on a sheet, you can, but they very well may run into each other. And I'm just choosing to just do 1 on a sheet. Okay, I think that's about good. I'm going to do another sheet, and then we'll put the milk and the almonds on it. This is real easy to do on the sheet. You can also do it on your pastry mat, but I'm just doing it on the sheet here. Oh, and I think Carla is monitoring today, and I'm sure Mary's on too. I didn't even have a chance to talk to her this morning, but I did talk to Carla, so I know Carla's on here. So hopefully Carla's catching anything that, or anybody that we don't like. All the guys that thinks they want to friend all the ladies, you know, they need to go somewhere else to do their friending, not on our page. We don't like that. Now, most of the time, I don't use my bottom shelf to bake cookies on. I am today. These only cook about 12 to 14 minutes, and I'm going to watch them real close. But if your oven cooks well on the bottom, you can certainly cook cookies, but you will burn cookies really fast if you're cooking them on the bottom. And when you go to all the work to make cookies using the ingredients and to prepare them, you don't want to burn your stuff. So, okay. So in the recipe, I think I said, oh, let's see, how many tablespoons? 6 tablespoons. I just poured some milk in here. Actually, I should, before I start putting this here, I'm gonna go ahead and put milk in here because I don't want to use this milk after I've already done that. So this is the drizzle that we're going to put on top, and I just remembered I forgot to get them all out. That's okay, I'll do something else. Okay, with this is 2 cups of imperial powdered sugar. Y'all bear with me a minute. I'm doing this so I don't have to waste this milk. So 2 cups of imperial powdered sugar, about a half a teaspoon of salt, and we're going to do about a half a teaspoon of almond extract and 8 tablespoons of whole milk. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And about a half a teaspoon. Whoops! I'm about to pour water in there. That's not what I want in there. There's my almond. That would not have been good, because one thing I've been drinking out of that bottle. Okay. Get my almond extract in there. And then we're just going to whisk this. It's going to be kind of thin, because it's going to be a drizzle. You don't need an electric beater for this. You just need to mix it with the whisk. And I'm going to set this aside. I meant to do this. That's actually a little bit thin. I'm going to pour some more powdered sugar in there. So if you think it's a little bit too thin, just add a little bit more powdered sugar to it. I put a little bit more extract than I should have, and a little bit makes a difference, especially when you're making kind of like a drizzle like this. Okay, I can whisk that some more later. I just didn't want to having this milk in this raw cookie dough and then putting that over there in the drizzle. I didn't want to do that. So you're just going to take a pastry brush and you're just going to generously brush the top of your rolls with this milk. Now, the first time I ever made these, I was not real sure how they were going to do, but I had already eaten some. at a cookie swap. And I knew they were delicious, so I followed the recipe, and I've been making them ever since. These are going to cook about 12 to 14 minutes on 325. If the milk comes over on your pan, it's not a big deal, but I'm just kind of wiping that up there just a bit. But we're going to get these in the oven, and then I'll do my other 2 rolls and have them ready to go in the oven when these get done. And I know exactly what my mama would have done. She would have said, Linda Faye, you put 2 rolls on that pan. Don't you cook 1 roll at a time. That's wasting your oven heat. But I've made these so many times that I just don't like them running together. And I really prefer to just cook them to where it's just a single log. But if you want to cook 2 on 1 pan, by all means do it. Okay, let me wash my hands because I've got raw cookie dough on my hands. Okay, now I've got a cup of sliced almonds. And you can buy them like this, but if you don't have them sliced and you've got whole almonds, put them in a food chopper or a food processor, whatever you've got, and slice them yourself. And I'm just going to sprinkle almonds on top of the milk. I can tell you one thing, if you make these, this is going to be something you're going to want to make every year. They are really, really delicious. And they're different. They're, you know, it's a bar. So they're just a little bit different than a regular cookie. And if you store these, now these don't keep indefinitely, but if you store them correctly, you can keep them probably for a couple of weeks. And if you don't want to cook them that far in advance, make up your cookie dough and put it in the freezer. Just divide it in logs and put it in the freezer and label it, and label the cooking instructions, put a label on it, and then take them out, and all you got to do is brush them with, roll them out, brush them with milk, and put your almonds on there. And then your icing, of course. And that would save you a little bit of time too. It's what's time consuming if you're making the cookies and baking them all in the same day. And yes, you're using the same amount of time, but you're not doing it all at one time. And sometimes you've got enough time to mix up some cookie dough, but you don't have time to cook them, because by the time you get 1 pan done, you got to take them out and do something with them and then put another pan in. So it's like it's constant until you get all of it done. So this is how they look. I'm going to put them in the oven, put the timer on, and then I'm going to get the other 2 logs rolled out. So I set the timer to 13 minutes, and if I start smelling them before then, well, then I'll go check them before then. Now, there's been plenty times when I've made these that I have made twice as much that I'm making today, which would, in reality, would be like 4 batches. And that mixer will definitely do it. I just figured I would do the recipe, what I wrote today, so y'all could see exactly how many that you would get out of it. And this is going to make a lot of cookies. You cut them, I'll show you how you cut them, but you cut them at a diagonal, and you get several pieces out of one log. I try to keep them about an inch. So if you get like 12 cookies out of each log, or 14 or 15 cookies, you're going to have about 5 dozen cookies when you get these all done, which is a pretty good platter of cookies. And sometimes when I've made the logs bigger than this, and I felt like they were too big for a little child's hand, I would just take my knife and go down the middle and cut them in half. And that way they're getting a cookie that's about 2 inches long, which is more conducive to a kid's hand than, you know, one that's 3 or 4 or 5 inches long. And again, some adults, you know, they want to try a little bit of everything because you've got so much, so many goodies at Christmas, and you want to try them all, and you can't really afford to eat that much, so you just want little pieces and, you know, a little taste of everything. So it's kind of more not just for kids, but for everybody, because that way you can try something that everybody made and still not completely overload yourself. And Mama, when she made her cookies, she made, oh my goodness, she made so many different kinds, and she would make them all different sizes and everything. And I'm going to be making Sandy's next, and that is a cookie that it's my favorite. It's my very favorite all-time cookie. And shortbread is next, and these Scandinavian almond bars would be third. And then ribbon cookies, which I plan to make those, and orange date nut and ginger cookies. Those are my favorite cookies, and that's what I like to make. I like to make my favorite cookies, and there are a lot of other people's favorite cookies too. Debbie and Misty, this is their favorite cookie here, the Scandinavian almond bars. And I'm going to give a shout out to Misty, my niece, Edward and Debbie's daughter. She finished her final nursing school last Thursday. She made a 90 on it. She has 2 children and a husband, of course. And she has gone to school this entire year, and she already had schooling. She was a phlebotomist before her children were born, and after her children were born, she took a break and chose to stay home to be with her children. And she sacrificed after Catherine got in school, and it was a sacrifice for her entire family and for Edward and Debbie too, because they've helped make this happen with, you know, watching kids and different things. And so she's graduating in a few days, and I'm so very proud of her. Mike and I just think the world of Missy, and we think that that she's going to do great things, and I'm sure she's going to probably go on and further her schooling later on. But she graduated at the top of her class, and that's for those of you who have gone back to school after you had a family, and you know how difficult it is. It's not an easy task at all, and so we're very proud. Let me wash my hands again. I know when we first started doing videos, it would just, some people, it would just drive them crazy when I would say I was going to wash my hands. And I try to get out of the habit of doing that. But anytime you're handling raw cookie dough, you don't want to pick something else up with your hands. So make sure that, I guess that's probably a childish thing to say, because everybody knows to wash their hands. But I'm pretty particular about what I cook, how I cook it, and clean up. And sometimes it's funny. There's a little thing that you see sometimes on Facebook that's got a there's a cat sitting on the counter and their tail is inside of a mixing bowl or something. And people say, and that's why I don't eat at potlucks or something, because you don't know what their kitchen's like. But it's kind of funny to me. But anyway, we love pets. We've always loved pets. So not knocking pet lovers at all, because we've had pets. In fact, this is the first time in our married life that we have not had pets. We haven't had an inside pet in several years, but we have had inside pets for many, many years of our marriage. Mike is an animal lover. Y'all know that. He loves animals of any kind, whether they're wild strays or whatever. He was in Tyler working one day several years ago, and he saw this little tiny kitten. It was some kind of a famous breed kitten. It was a beautiful kitten, and he got out of his van and went and picked it up and put it in the van. Stopped and got it something to eat. Brought it home and took it over to our vet. He named her Rose, because Tyler is a Rose City. And so he named her Rose, and before the day was up, they had her adopted out. It was a beautiful little kitten, and they knew somebody that wanted one like it, so they called and they came and got her after the vet checked to make sure she was okay. And he's done that. He's done that all of our married life. He's picked up strays and took them to the vet. Spent a lot of money, many times. A lot of times when we didn't have it to spend. And I'm a very practical person, and I didn't always agree with it, because I felt like we could have spent the money better somewhere else. But Mike sacrificed to take care of animals, and he's done that so many times in our life since I've known him. Okay, so I got these other two done. And let's see, we've got about 4 or 5 more minutes on those, and I'm going to see if I can get a little bit of this out of the way, and because I need some space here when I get those out of the oven to show y'all how they're going to turn out. And these are so good. You got a really cold glass of sweet milk. My dad used to call milk sweet milk, because back in the day it was either sweet milk or buttermilk, and so they would differentiate by saying sweet milk, or if they wanted buttermilk, well then it was, they knew they wanted buttermilk, but if they said sweet milk, they knew they wanted sweet milk. So a lot of times when I say that, I think of my daddy, because that's how they talk back then. All right, I know y'all probably don't necessarily want to watch me do cleanup here, but I'm just trying to get this where I got a little bit more room to work. And because I didn't get a little bottle out, y'all know what I'm talking about. The bottles that, I'm going to look in the cabinet and see if there's one up there. I know they're back there in my other room, but I don't want to leave the camera that long. But you can buy them in Walmart. They're 2 in a pack. Some places you can buy them Hobby Lobby, Michael's. Sometimes you can buy them one at a time, or 2 in a pack, and they have a cap. You can put like simple syrup in them, or something to drizzle on your candy or cookies or whatever, and you just fill it up and then squeeze a bottle and do a little drizzle. So I'm going to look up here in the cabinet and see if I see one, and if I don't, well, I'll just use the whisk. Okay, give me just 1 second here. I'm not done looking. I knew I had one in the refrigerator with simple syrup, so this is what I'm talking about. This is an empty jar. I saved these for to put simple syrup in. So I'm going to pour this simple syrup in here, and I'm just going to rinse this out real quick with hot water, so I'll have something to use. Now I'll tell y'all a little secret. If you want to rinse something out, and like you need to get something out of the bottom of a jar like this, put some water in it, stick it in the microwave for about 20 seconds, and it'll make it come out really, really quick and easy. So y'all give me a second here, and I will see if I can get this done without being away from the camera too much. I'm going to whisk this glaze some more to make sure that it's all nice and smooth. I see a few little lumps in it. I don't like that. I told y'all didn't have to use electric mixer, but I'm pretty sure I'm fixing to put one on this. Y'all see how it just melted that sugar in the bottom? I'm going to just give this a really quick shake. See, every bit of that sugar in the bottom just popped right out. I do that a lot, especially when I'm working with buttercream. When you've got, let me hear my buzzer, let me check my cookies here. Okay. They're not quite ready. So I'm going to put these on 2 more minutes. It said to cook them between 12 to 14 minutes, and that's usually, I usually set it on the low amount, and then I will check them, and if they're not ready, well then I will cook them a couple more minutes. But you do not want to overcook them. That's one thing that people do with cookies. If you overcook them, they're going to dry out very, very quickly. That smells so good, that almond. And it only took a minute, and you've got smooth dough. You have a couple of beaters to wash, but to me it's worth it because I absolutely did not want lumps in it. So I'm going to see if I can pour this without too much trouble. This doesn't have a pour spout on it, so let's see how we do. I'm not going to put it all the way, just a little bit of the way. And I'll use the rest of this. But now if you have one of these squeeze bottles, or you buy one or buy a package of them, they're very inexpensive. If you want to make something look pretty, you should buy a package of them, or buy a couple. You don't want to push it real hard because I have seen the tops pop off. So keep that in mind. You know, do a little bit of gentle pressure on it. Okay, I'm going to check them again. and see if they're done. And they're actually not quite done. It's probably because I've got 2 in there. So let me just cook them another minute and a half. I think most cookie recipes, the timing is to cook 1 pan, and anytime you have more than 1 thing in the oven, it's going to take longer to cook, or it could take longer to cook. So keep that in mind. If you're cooking 2 pans of cookies, it might take 2 or 3 or 4 minutes longer to do it. Yesterday, or Saturday, I should say, I got a package in the mail from Pampered Chef that I was really excited to get. And I'll be showing y'all on my other page what it is. But I cooked a eye of round roast. And I don't cook those real often, but I had Mike to pick one up at Brookshire's Saturday when he went over to mail a couple of things at the post office. And they're not open, but they do pick up mail on Saturday. So he got the perfect size. It was not big, kind of a medium-sized roast. And I cooked it. And so last night, you know, you slice it across the grain, and I made gravy with the broth that the roast cooked in, and made homemade mashed potatoes using yellow Yukon Gold mashed potatoes, and some French-style green beans and some little crescent rolls. And that supper was so good. It's something that I've been wanting for a long time. And you don't cook heavy suppers like that a lot, but it was just something that I thought sounded so good. And Mike really did enjoy it. He complimented me on it twice. And we have enough left for supper today, so we won't be cooking today. Okay, let me get these cookies out. You're going to see that they look very light, and that's okay because they're going to cook a little bit longer on this pan. Let me get the other one out. Put these back in the oven. Okay, I set the timer on 15 minutes. Now this is how you're going to cut them. And you do want them to cool a little bit before you drizzle them. But you want to cut them at an angle. I'm hoping, can y'all see that, or does it need to go back further? Okay. Hopefully you can see that good. Okay, so I'm going to cut now. Your 2 end pieces are going to be, they're not going to be as an inch all the way down because you're cutting them at an angle. But I'm cutting these like this. I'm just going to cut both ends first. And then I'm going to cut these about an inch wide. Now you'll see that these cookies are a lot bigger than you think they're going to be. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so I got 12 is what I got out of them. So I should have 48 cookies or 4 dozen cookies. I'm going to show these to you up close. See, I cut them on a diagonal like that. And they got to cool just a little bit before I put some icing on it. because you want that icing to kind of stay. You don't want it to run and melt, so it needs to cool just a little bit. So I'll go ahead and cut the other pan. Now, if you cook these so long that when you cut them, they're hard, you've baked them too long. So make sure that you do not over bake them. Now you can see that this is really, it's a good size cookie. It's not a small cookie at all. Okay, so you've got 12 cookies. And they're cut on the diagonal. We're gonna just let them cool, hang out and let them cool for just a few minutes. And so when you're baking cookies or when you're doing anything, the key to it is, number one, is to make sure that you have the ingredients. And we've had a lot of people, or I don't say a lot, we've had several people ask us about, some people call it power cooking. It's basically what you're doing is you're cooking, like if you bought a big thing of hamburger meat and you cook a lot of it, and I think we may have talked about this before, but then you break it down, after you cook it, you break it down into Ziploc bags, and so much is designated for a certain meal, like tacos, or you could do lasagna, you could do like a beef stroganoff, you could do some kind of a casserole, you could do shepherd's pie. There's so many different things you could do with, we mostly buy the 2 1/4 pound packages of the 96.4 hamburger at Walmart. They come in a pound package too, but most time we buy that one. So you can break that down into several meals. And if you really don't mind eating hamburgers several nights in a row in a week's time, you can cook all of that in one cooking and add some seasoning to it, some diced onion, whatever you want to put in it, and then let it cool. And then you've got your meat prep done for several days. We have a store about 30 miles north of here, and it's a mom and pop store, and they buy a lot of meat in bulk, and they sell it really cheap. And they I get their ads on my news feed because I have it on my phone. But people go from we're kind of on the edge of Texas. I mean, we're in Texas. We're kind of on the edge of Louisiana and Arkansas. And people come from all 3 states to go to the store to shop. And they fill up their freezers full because you can get a lot of good buys. Now, a lot of the hamburger meat is, 80-20, which is really a high fat content. Mike and I don't buy that because we try to eat the leaner parts of the meat. But certainly for, if you wanted to buy the 80-20, like you could get 20 pounds for really cheap. I think I noticed the other day they had the chicken chunks. It was 5 pounds for $9.99, which is $2 a pound, which is fantastic. I don't know what brand they are, and I don't know. I've never bought them, but I know that they carry stuff like that a lot of times. They also carry things that some other stores don't carry, like maybe like the old Piggly Wigglies. I know there's still some of those around, but those would be the stores, if you have in your area, that you could get good deals on meat and try to stretch your budget, your food budget further. When we were little, and when my daddy went to West Texas to work in the gins in the fall, and we'd stay right before Christmas, and we'd come home. We went every year until I started to school, and I started to school and out there. But then after when it was time to come home, then we didn't go back again because Mother didn't want to keep us going back and forth and, you know, changing schools in the middle of the school year. But we went for several years. And we lived in those little cabins, and I don't know if we've showed y'all pictures of them or not, but it was a one-room cabin, and we lived in one. They were shaped in a U, and their bathroom facilities was at the end, and, you know, it was everybody that lived in those cabins would, you know, they would use those bathrooms. And we cooked, slept, and lived in this one-room cabin. And Aunt Elsie and Uncle JB and their family were out there. Aunt Faye and Uncle Dean was out there. There was a lot of people from East Texas went out there in the fall because they could make money. Daddy made $1 an hour working in the gym, and he'd work 80 or 90 hours a week. And back then, in the 50s, early 50s, that was good money. You could not make that kind of money in East Texas. So they would go out there and work and, you know, and make a lot of extra money then to tie them over to when he could buy and sell and haul hay or watermelons or something. So they didn't cook meat every day. And this is another thing that is really something that I think a lot of families used to do that may go back to, is they had meatless meals. They would, you know, maybe they might have a ham bone left over from a ham, and they would cook a big pot of pinto beans, and that's what they had, pinto beans and cornbread. And we only had meat once a week. And Daddy and our family and Uncle JB and Aunt Elsie took turns. One would buy the meat one week, and one would buy the meat next week. So you were only buying meat twice a month. And they didn't buy bukudos of it. You know, they bought enough that everybody could have some, but it wasn't like you had tons of it left over. And I know one of the things that they bought a lot and cooked a lot was pork steak. And that's something that Mama and Daddy cooked a lot, even when we lived in East Texas, when we come back home and lived in Nacogdoches. That pork steak was one of the things that they cooked. So when you're planning out your budget, and maybe you're having to cut down because, number one, the food is so high right now, or maybe you have extra bills. It's the end of the year, property taxes, income taxes, whatever kind of taxes that you pay. So you've got to cut somewhere, and food budget sometimes is what gets hit. So you can make a meatless lasagna and still feed your family well. There's so many things that you can do that you do not have to have meat in it, or maybe just flavor a dish with meat and not like have a plate of pork chops, but just, you know, cook, you know, like the pinto beans with ham, or with a little pork steak or pork chop. Maybe you've got a smoked pork chop that's in the freezer. You could cook that and break it up in a pot of lima beans or pinto beans or peas and cornbread. So there's a lot of things. Greens. Pinkie Paul always had a fall crop of greens, and Mama would cook greens a lot. And cornbread, it wasn't something I ate when I was a kid because I was very picky about what I ate. But a lot of families do, you know, feed their family with, you know, with things like this that helps cut down. And maybe, you know, teach your children. You don't always have to have, you know, a plate of ham or a plate of fried chicken on the table. You can have a nice meal, a delicious meal, and not even have any meat in it, or have a little bit less meat. Now, I'm not a vegetarian. I do love vegetables. I'm not a vegetarian. I'm not a vegan. I'm not any of that. I'm just saying, if you want to cut down on your grocery budget, look for a mom and pop store in your area. If they have a, let's see, what do we have here? They have Aldi's, and I know that all of y'all are probably familiar with Aldi's. There's I think it's called Save Mart. It used to be something else, where you could buy things at a discount. And of course, you know, if if you have a membership to Sam's, you could get some deals there. But again, when you go to Sam's, you wind up, or at least we do, wind up spending more money than I plan to when I walk in there. So Sam's to me is not necessarily for people who are looking to save money. I would check out a local mom and pop store in Fort Worth, and in Weatherford they have Town Talk, which you can get good deals on food there. And people do. People have been shopping there for years. We shopped there in the 80s. They have lots of good buys. And not everything in the stores are good buys. But that's where a smart shopper is savvy and they know what's a good buy and what's not a good buy. You also have to check dates on something you're buying. Don't buy up a boatload of something if it's going out of date in 2 or 3 months. That's not a good buy. So make sure if you're buying a bunch of canned stuff or something to put in your freezer, make sure that you're getting something that you're going to actually be able to eat and not wind up throwing it out, because then you've defeated your purpose to try to save money. So okay, they're not cool, but they have cooled some. So I'm going to snap the top on there and just shake this just a pinch. Now these little tops will go down, but unless you hear it snap, they're not on there good. And these are very easy to get thrown away, so make sure you put them somewhere where they're not going to get thrown away. So I'm just going to drizzle this. I'm just gently squeezing it, and I'm going to drizzle it back and forth. You can cross drizzle it. You can go down more than one time. This is going to set on your cookies. I'm going to go back more than once because I want a little bit more on here. Make sure you go to the end. I don't think I went quite to the end on some of that, on that first round. Now you talk about delicious. This is a delicious cookie. Now they are still a little bit warm. This is going to set, and I may have to wait on those others because it's melting a little, not a whole lot, but you can tell that it's got a real pretty drizzle on it. And then when you're storing them, if you want to take a spatula and lift them up and not break them apart, that helps keep the edges of them from drying out, and put them like in a whatever container you're using. Or if you're going to use them right away and put them on a platter, then take your spatula or your knife and cut them again to make sure that, like this one here. Get this away from my face. Thank you, Jesus. Hallelujah. Those are so good. They're crunchy on the outside and soft in the middle. You can taste that delicious almond flavoring and those almonds on top. These are really, really a great cookie. I hope you'll get in the kitchen and make some. My buzzer is going off. I need to check the others. I hope y'all have a wonderful, blessed day. A good start to the week. Be sure to count your blessings. I miss my sister so much, and I know she misses me when I'm not with her, but y'all just hang in there and bear with us. We'll be back together soon on our regular schedule, but from now through the end of the year, you know, unless something comes up that we can't help it, we will be doing some cooking separate. So let me get this buzzer off before it drives y'all nuts. Love y'all. Be sure to count your blessings and get in the kitchen and cook. We'll be here tomorrow cooking. We're making a really good something tomorrow. So see y'all tomorrow. Be sure to share us. Bye-bye.